You're listening to Exposure. It's 104.9 XFM. John Kennedy with you until 1. And that was Idlewild, a modern way of letting go from February of 2003, the last thing we had from Idlewild. Now they're back. They have a new album, Warnings and Promises, which is in the shops next week, but you get to hear the whole thing tonight. It is another Exposure album playback, and we have Roddy and Rod from the band with me tonight to talk us through it track by track. Welcome back to XFM.
Thank you very much.
How are you both doing?
Doing
Good.
fine, yeah.
Yes.
Just doing the rounds of interviews and things, different things, promoting a record, which is, you kind of always forget about it and then it starts again. But
yeah, are you kind of
well,
are we at the point where you're still interested and excited about it, or have we yet to get into
no,
that?
we're still. I mean, it always bemuses me actually to begin with, not in a bad way. You just can't get used to basically speaking about yourself constantly for, I guess, hours and hours on end every day. But I was saying to Rod, it is cheaper than therapy. So in that respect, it's a good thing.
And you've got music as well. That's the outlet for therapy as well. For a lot of musicians.
There's a lot. It's some people complain about interviews, but I find them quite fascinating. The whole idea of talking about yourself, and in talking about yourself, you quite often work out things that you never realised about yourself. So
really, musicians should be the most centred and sorted people.
I think
that we
so.
meet.
Yeah, they've got no excuses. They spend all day doing nothing.
But I think you've been busy recently. Anyway, you've got a new album. Which is out next week, and we played Modern Way of Let It Go, and that was back in 2003. And what has been going on since then? I mean, it seems like an awful long time ago now. I mean, now it's February 2005.
Well, we spent we were on tour really till about August of 2003.
Right.
And then we took a month off, and then we pretty much started. We went up to the Highlands. We have this house in the Highlands that we write our songs in. We don't own it. We just rent it from a friend. We went up there in September. And over the past year, we kind of collected a lot of ideas on like Rod's laptop. It was kind of like a sort of scrapbook of different musical ideas, riffs and lyrics, and we started just basically it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You just throw it on the table, and we thought, right, let's piece together an album. And it took 6 or 7 months to find that album through that, and then of course we recorded it. But
yeah, so that was kind of 6 or 7 months from September 2003,
yeah.
So kind of into spring,
into the summer. And we recorded the record last summer.
Right.
I mixed in the sort of autumn, and it was all done by the kind of end of October.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of months off, and then we started, basically getting ready to play it.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is what you could be described as the all new Idlewild, because you hit the headlines in was it 2003?
2002.
That was 2002.
Yeah, that was September, start September 2002.
When Bob kind of walked off stage and left the band.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, and but you kind of sorted that out quite quickly, it seems to me.
Well, the next day.
Yeah.
We just decided that. I mean, it had been building up for a long time. It wasn't. It was actually kind of going to happen sometime. And it happened to happen there, and we just decided to carry on. And we finished off the rest of the year touring with Alex Grant, who was our bass tech at the time, playing bass. He kind of saved us because obviously he's such a good bass player. He just learnt all the parts and played. And then a week later, we gave Gavin a phone, and Gavin joined the band.
Yeah, because he'd been in Turn, who you'd played with, I don't know, quite a few times, I think.
Yeah, we've just remained friends with him since we first met him, you know, and he's a good singer and a good bass player, and just fun to be around. So it seemed like an obvious choice, and he was into the idea as well. So
Also, he was a fan of the band.
yeah.
Like we met him because he came. It was the very first time we played in Dublin. He came along to see us play, and we kept in touch all over the years. And every time we were in Dublin, we'd see him. He'd sometimes come to Scotland for our gigs, and it was kind of, and also in a weird way, it'd been suggested loads of times because Bob had been really, drifting apart, and quite a few people had said, "Why did you not ask Gavin to join?" So it just seemed such a natural thing, and now that's why the band feels really like refreshed and like a new version of the band, like a sort of second chapter. It's like the next chapter, you know. And part of me doesn't like it when bands change lineups, but part of me is a realist and realises that, it's just so unnatural. It's a situation you're in anyway with these people constantly. You have to be close friends. You have to have an understanding to get anywhere, and we all do. And Bob didn't have that with us, and now it feels like we all do again. So it's really good.
Yeah, and Alan Stewart became a permanent member of the band.
I mean, Alan's
as well.
been playing with us for years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I felt like he was a member anyway.
Yeah. And so did this have a big impact when you went to start writing in September 2003 for this new record? I mean, did you think, right, we're going to sound completely different now? Or?
Well, it took us a long time to figure out what everybody was doing together. We probably spent the first month of writing songs kind of just churning songs out, and more actually working out what the dynamic of the band was than actually writing any good songs. And it took us a while to kind of get used to each other in that way, and kind of everyone figure out their roles in the band, and everyone, I suppose, figure out how to contribute with each other. So I think after about a month or two of that, we started to get an idea of, I think with a little help from Dave Eninger at the time, who we started recording with, it just kind of helped us figure out what we were doing. And then eventually it's obviously a lot different when you've got 5 people with opinions instead of, a few people with opinions.
Yeah.
And also Alan and Gavin were very keen to, they'd for the year previous had been playing someone else's, songs they didn't write, and they were very keen to. I mean, they're both very good musicians and have got real ideas about songs. So, and the interesting thing about our band is there's no one songwriter. I don't think anyone's capable of writing a song on their own. Like I can't play an instrument. Rod can't really sort of write lyrics. So it's the same sort of thing. We have to write songs with people, and it's the same with Alan and Gavin. And it was just a process of kind of finding out exactly what we were going to do, what we wanted to sound like, and that took a while, and it was frustrating, but I think anything worthwhile was always slightly frustrating anyway.
Yeah, but it was kind of worth it in the end. So.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And so after kind of spending a couple of months kind of working out what the dynamic of the sound might be, then you started writing on acoustic guitars again, which you'd done for the
On and
moment.
off. I mean, whatever works,
Yeah.
I think sometimes you want to just all plug in and come up with riffs,
But we did strip it down.
Yeah, I think
The majority of all the best songs came from, acoustic guitars, starting it off and stuff being built on.
it's easier to tell if a song's good if it sounds good when you write with an acoustic guitar, If it sounds good on its own like that, it's generally a good
The
song.
difference, though, between this and the past is that we would always, even if we had an acoustic song, would build on it and would make it into a rock song. Whereas this time we were much more confident just to leave it, leave the space into it. And I think that's one different thing about the record. It's a lot more space, and as a result of that, there's a lot more room for the sort of lyrics and the melodies to kind of breathe,
Yeah. And at what point then did you think, right, well, these songs seem pretty ready for us. I mean, we could actually go into a proper studio and record these and make
We're
the
extremely impatient anyway, and we did what we've always done, which is write a bunch of songs and go straight into the studio before we've really decided which ones of them are any good, and before we've written a whole album. So consequently, as per usual, I did a session which we ended up using one song from, and ended up changing producers and going, basically starting to write the album again from scratch. Basically saying to ourselves, we haven't got anything, let's start again. And we've done that on the last few records, to be honest. It's kind of a trial and error thing, which seems to work with us. So
Yeah.
So it took a long time, and I don't think any of us really ever thought we, had a full album until we finished recording it.
Until we had it in our hands, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even mixing, we were changing things around.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that you can't plan it at all. It's like, it really is so uncertain, but it gets its kind of magic from that. But that's how it could be so frustrating. You can't really find what you want to say about in a song until, you leave it for a few months. So, like, that's what a song like Love Steals Us From Loneliness is a classic example. I mean, that chorus has been written for ages, and then we would have different verses and different bridges, and even when recording it, we were like editing it and changing it around right to the last minute. So if we couldn't have planned to write that song to turn out the way it turned out. The only way we could have got those results is just by, like, trying it, and that's what we had to do,
So it kind of evolves over a period of time.
Yeah,
so,
it does, yeah.
So presumably, while it was being written up in the Highlands in Scotland, and then you took the song to LA to record it, so it would have changed again while you were out in LA. I mean, do you think the environments have had any impact on the album? From the Highlands to living in Topanga Canyon, was that where you were living?
No, we're actually in the Hollywood Hills, but me and Colin were visiting Topanga Canyon.
Right.
It's interesting, that's for sure. No, of course, whatever you do, if you're listening to a car driving in London, and you listen to the same song listen to a tune in a car driving in London, or you're listening to the same song in Los Angeles, it's been framed differently, so it sounds different and it resonates differently, and that's exactly the way it was for us. These songs written in a house overlooking sky, it's raining outside, and they sounded really good in that context, and then taking them and driving around Los Angeles in the evening with the same songs on, they were different songs. And obviously we were in that environment for long enough that we got really relaxed into it. And obviously it did rub off to an extent. Not to the extent that we were all, in our Speedo trunks with, like, barbecue wings and, like, bottles of Jack Daniels.
Only on Sundays.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
It was, we're very serious about what we're doing, so, like, we did take it very seriously, but there was a real relaxed feel to the whole record, which I think is evident in the music.
Yeah, definitely. How long did it take in LA then to get it nailed?
It's 3 months.
Right.
Which is quite a long time for us.
A good 3 months?
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of...
It was amazing
really
fun.
Good time.
It was like a kind of idyllic, really. I mean, we had a house with a swimming pool and lemon trees in the garden, and hired car in a studio, Sunset Sound Studios, where Johnny Mitchell and Doors did all the records, and we were just going between that, and it was beautiful sunshine, and we have a lot of friends there, so yeah, it was a summer of just writing and making music, and hanging out with your friends. I can't think of a better way to spend a summer.
I'm sure subconsciously we're probably recording slowly. Didn't do it on
Stretching
purpose,
it out. You wouldn't think of permanently moving over to LA and the sunshine and...
I think it's one of these places that, it's brilliant if you're wealthy. And it's just total city of extremes. I mean, the wealthy people who lived in there just have a time of their life. And at the time, we were fortunate enough, the record company were obviously paying for the house that we'd hired and the car hire and the studio. So we had, we saw a nice side of Los Angeles, but obviously it's got a really horrible side as well. If you walk down Hollywood Boulevard, it's really disturbing. It's like mentally ill people in the streets. A lot of them, So I don't know how I could definitely live there if I had a lot of money, could live a comfortable life, but at the same time, it's a weird city to walk about because it just seems so divided.
So September 2004, was Warnings and Promises all in place then? Was it finished and...
No, it wasn't until we didn't master it till sort of start of October.
Right.
There's a bit of a thing with mixing. There's quite often like that with, I'm sure a lot of bands will tell you the same thing about people, everyone's got a different opinion on mixes, record company people, band people, fans or friends of the band, everyone's got their own. Mainly because everyone's getting a little bit desperate because they know it's almost finished and they want to make it as perfect as possible. But I have a thing when you just have to throw your hands up sometimes and say, this is what it sounds like, and we can't tweak it too much.
Yeah.
You hear all these like horror stories of people doing like 100 mixes of one song, and I can easily see how you can do that.
Yeah.
But it drives you insane. And we were mixing with a guy called Michael Brower, who's got a reputation for doing some great stuff. He's worked with Dylan and the Stones and Coldplay and all these, very popular, great bands. So it was sounding great. So I was just, this is fine.
Yeah. And so you mentioned popularity with this album. Was there a mission in any way? Was there an agenda for Idlewild on their 5th album to take it up a step, having toured the States with Pearl Jam and Stadia?
I think we just want to play more places. I think that's kind of always been our goal, is to just play as many places as we possibly can. And we played a lot in America on the last record, but again, we didn't really play much in the rest of Europe or, you know, anywhere outside of America and Europe. So I think definitely with this record, we want to try and play in Japan, Hong Kong, you know, Mexico, everywhere we can go, really.
Australia? Have you been to Australia?
Yeah, we've been there once, yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's weird for us because it's like we're one of these groups that have just evolved very slowly and quite naturally, and nowadays that's kind of a strange thing almost for rock bands or whatever you want to call it. And every record we put out, well, the past two anyway, people have said, "Oh, this is your record, this is the big one," all that kind of stuff. Which I've never. I don't like those kind of like, you know, sweeping statements anyway. It just seems that we're a band that have kind of, we've never really been hyped, and we're just kind of done our own thing. And all the bands that came around at the same time have either become massive, like, you know, Coldplay, something like that, or have just disappeared, and we've just kind of been going at our own pace the whole time. So I kind of do ignore a lot of these different things, and we just make music that we like. I'm not going to resort to that terrible cliche about if other people like it's a bonus, because I mean, I deserve a slap if I say that. But I think that obviously our music is not obscure at all. You know, it's, although we do listen to a lot of obscure music, we make, you know, music for everyone, and I think that steadily every record has become more and more for everyone. The discordant element is kind of waning, not because we don't like music like that, but just because we feel like we've done that and want to try something different. So I think this record is probably our most accessible record, I'd say. It's a lot more laid back, and it takes a while to get into, which is a good thing, I think, as well, because it means that people will keep going back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, but as I said before, I mean, the world of music is such a surreal environment, and it changes. I mean, you know, over the years, people's attention span is decreasing. So I've no idea, you know, what people think about us anymore. All I know is, you know, the only thing I control about it is, you know, how good the music is that we release, and I think this is the most complete record we've put out.
Excellent. Well, people get to judge for themselves tonight. Let's hope they've got the attention span to keep with us. Warnings and Promises is the title of the album. We're going to take a break, and I'll be back with the first track from that record after this. Don't go away.
XFM. Future music for London.
Exposure.
Exposure with John Kennedy. XFM.
Every step takes a beat of your heart through a city that's falling apart.
Idlewild. Love Steals Us from Loneliness from the brand new album Warnings and Promises. You're listening to Exposure. It's 104.9 XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and with me tonight are Roddy and Rod from Idlewild. It's another Exposure album playback. We're playing out the whole of the record. That is the opening track, and it was also the first single from the album. And it's quite an anthemic kind of tune, a good way to launch it all. When you were organising the record, did this stand out as a lead track at any point?
It was probably one of the first. I suppose the chorus of this song was one of the first things we wrote together in this kind of incarnation of the band, and probably because of that, the song has the most sort of ties to our last record. I think it's kind of a good stepping stone between our last record and this record. I think it's basically the culmination of all the things we did in the last record, kind of fine-tuned, I think, and it kind of hints at where the rest of the record goes off, which I think the rest of the record's a lot more kind of rootsy, but this one definitely has much more ties to what we've done before.
It's also a good start to a record, I think, the first single, because everyone's heard it, or generally the people who are buying it initially have heard it. So it's like, you know, they're familiar with it and they're into it. We've done that quite a lot, actually, with the last two albums rather, opened with the first single from it. It's just something that I think, because generally we always choose a first single that's very kind of obvious, and as Rod said, is kind of a link to what you've done in the past. I think it's just it's easier for people to gauge. Oh, here they are again. This is what they kind of sound like, but it sounds a little bit different. But when they get the record, then they're actually prepared to listen to it more, I think, because they know there's something that they like about it. Yeah,
exactly. And is it an example of the three vocals on the chorus here? I mean, do all three of you pipe up?
Well, one thing we're really I mean, I love music with harmonies. It's one of my favourite bands, lots of harmonies, and me and Rod have been singing together for years, but it was great that Gavin could sing now on top. And we got friendly with this girl from Topanga Canyon called Inara, who's actually, her father was Lowell George from Little Feat, so that was big, and we were quite impressed by that. So she sang on a lot of the record too, so there's like with me, Rod and Gavin and Inara singing throughout that song, and that happens in quite a lot of this, because it's like I'm a big Jackson Browne fan, and I love the way that he always has a female voice in his wall of harmonies to give it a real different kind of distinction. So that, I love Steals Us from Loneliness is a good example of where the record's going sort of lyrically and musically. It's got a bit of everything, and obviously it's as you said, it's very anthemic, and it's a kind of a good way to start a record.
Yeah. And lyrically, what is it about? Is it a tale of rejection, or?
No, it's about, a lot of the record deals with, it's mainly a record about people. It's about the way that people react to each other and what makes them do that, and all these terms that we apply to each other that are so definite, like love and loneliness and warnings and promises, and the whole idea that they need each other to exist. Like, you need a promise to understand a warning, I need love to understand loneliness, and vice versa. And that's really kind of what Love Steals Us from Loneliness is about. It's about the whole idea that you do need love and loneliness. They're as important as each other.
Welcome Home is the next track. What can you tell us about this? Is this anything about the non-stop touring life of a band who...
Actually, no, it's a questioning the nature of home, totally. You know, it's not welcome home as in welcome home. It's more as in, like, it's questioning why those words are, used the same way that I think it's a record that questions a lot of different things about the way... It's about people getting comfortable and without thinking why they're actually comfortable in situations, stuff like that. I suppose it's full of doubt. It's not a negative record, but it throws up doubt about a lot of things, and Welcome Home's basically about that, about how there's a stigma attached to being at home, whatever you want to call it, that is actually, I find that not welcoming at all, I think you have to turn around and look the other direction, and that's what the whole idea about it is. It's kind of you finding your own way home, as opposed to where you just think you're supposed to go. It's quite a lot. It's like a map, There's directions on the map, but they don't really tell you where you have to go. You have to find it yourself.
And this is it. Idlewild, Welcome Home.
I go outside to find the middle of nowhere. Everyone needs their own empty stage. Just like the sky, with no beginning or ending. Or like reading a book without a last page. Stop and turn around and say it with your eyes closed. You don't need to us smiling for a whole nother year. I think we need a little bit more understanding. I think the future is already here. So I won't ask you to stop and turn around. Say it with your eyes closed. You don't need to welcome me home. Stop and turn around and try looking with your eyes wide open.
From the new album Warnings and Promises, getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight with Roddy and Rod from the band talking us through it track by track, and there's a bit of a mighty guitar solo in Welcome Home kind of in there. I mean, do you think that the relationship with guitars for Idlewild on this record has changed now that there are two kind of permanent guitarists in the band?
I think before we had a real tendency to layer guitars and more guitars on top of each other to kind of fill out the sound, I suppose. I think with this record we definitely realised there's two different people with completely different styles of playing, and to be able to hear them both, you just need to leave them alone. And consequently, probably because we wanted to, and also because of that, it's a lot more economic sounding and a lot more space in the record, which I think we've kind of been guilty in the past maybe of overfilling things a little bit. But there's really just nothing here that doesn't need to be there. I think that was kind of the criteria with every song, was don't, put anything there unless it's really necessary. So, a lot of the time it's just an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar playing off, sort of a rhythm and a lead.
Which I think is one of the real distinctions of the record. I think in one weird way it makes it more of a guitar player's record than anything we've done before. Because everything done before, Rod was obviously the only guitar player, and it's like a wall of melody he was playing. But I think you really noticed the guitar playing for the first time on this record. Yeah. Not saying the guitar playing in the past was was forgettable, far from it, but I think this one is really a record that you do notice the sort of musicianship, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely in the next track as well. I Want a Warning is the next track, which has some kind of nice spiky guitar at the beginning. What's this song about?
Again, it's about a lot of our records, our songs, they do this thing. I wasn't conscious of it till quite recently, that it's actually the verses are like the story and the chorus is the idea. A lot of our songs sort of deal in sort of ideas or suggestions about things, like from A Little Discouraged through to, You Held the World in Your Arms. A lot of these tunes are, pardon me, the verses are generally kind of like a narrative about sort of, generally in the first person or second person, about a specific thing, and then the chorus is just crashes into this sort of question, or this is what I think about something. But ultimately all the songs are kind of, it's they're about, we're describing ourselves and we're presenting what we know to other people, and without wishing to preach or anything like that, we're just sort of suggesting ideas that we have about different things. I Want a Warning specifically about the whole idea about warnings and promises, about as I said before, it's about you need a warning to understand a promise, because they're essentially the same thing. There's a promise and a warning and a promise. And I know verses, well, stuff like history is made, not repeated. It's just all kind of, I suppose it's just paranoid thought to sang by a paranoid man on top of a blues riff. That's a distilled version of what that song's about.
Are you that paranoid man?
Well, not paranoid. I'm just, I think I definitely, I think if I'm guilty of something, it's overthinking things, and I think that maybe I want a warnings about that. I don't, yeah.
Decide for yourself. This is Idlewild with I Want a Warning.
So conceited. So in order for love to be true, my dreams will have to become my only rules. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I've been warned about you, but I've seen through all your promises and warnings. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I'm being warned about you, I'll see it through all your promises and warnings. Wake me up on into a world outdated. And the older you get, the more you seem jaded. As you search for the quotes to make you seem complicated. So in order for love to be true, even my nightmares become my only rules. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I'm being warned about you, I'll see through all your promises and warnings. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I've been warned about you, but I've seen through every promise is a warning. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I've been warned about you, I've seen through all your promises and warnings. I want a warning, I want a warning, I want something more than a warning. I've been warned about you, I'll see it through for the promise of a warning.
You're listening to London's 104.9 XFM. It's Exposure. That is Idlewild. I Want a Warning from the new album Warnings and Promises, which is being talked through track by track tonight by Roddy and Rod from the band. I Understand It is the next track, and as ever with these things, I write down, or try and write down a lot of the lyrics as I listen to the record, and then when I try and go back to it during the interview, I can never read my own writing. There's something about mountains wouldn't part for me, and I'm trying to work out why I wrote that down, but it's quite a folk builder, this one.
Yeah. Well, I think I specifically listen to a lot of folk music, and I suppose the thing I like about folk music the most is the fact that it's just so, honest, without posturing. It's just generally an acoustic guitar with an idea on top of it, or a singer just describing something or singing something. I really love that. That's just it's so much more powerful to me than, you know, distortion pedals. Although I love noise and noisy rock bands, but folk music really does resonate much more strongly with me. And I think all of us collectively have been edging towards more acoustic music over the past years. And we just finished an acoustic tour actually and things like that. And
Yeah.
I
How'd that
feel
go?
very comfortable. It was brilliant. It was really, for us to do something like that, it was a real challenge for us. And really, I mean, we rearrange a lot of the songs. We have a violin player, Jenny, who plays with us. So it's very folky. It's like a dysfunctional folk group or something. And I understand it started off like that. And that was one of the first ones when we kind of stumbled upon our kind of 3-part harmonies. Because this was a Pearl Jam tour bus kind of demo. We weren't on Pearl Jam's tour bus, we were on our own one. But yeah, and this is when me, Gavin and Rod started singing 3-part and thought,
Oh no. I totally thought I took that off.
is it off?
I think
We thought we can go, you know, we can take this somewhere. And then when we actually started working this one up in the Highlands, it really was put in context, and lyrically that's exactly what it's about. It's about the remote parts of Scotland, and the fact is that as we were talking earlier on about things framing you, it's just there's so much space to think that you become really conscious of the fact you're extremely small in the world, you know, especially if you're up somewhere like Glen Elk, which is just monumental in the way it looks, and it's just so barren and bleak, and you realise that, you know, you don't really mean much. But at the same time, it's not negative. It means that, you know, you can make you make your own meaning from your life, don't you? And it can be the best life in the world.
Yeah.
But it's in context of the earth, which is pretty phenomenal.
Getting a sense of perspective.
Exactly. I suppose that's what this song's about.
Idlewild. I understand it.
Mountains wouldn't part for me. They have no uncertainty. I'm just a passing emotion, just hoping they take notice. And you are an opportunity. Without an opportunity, another passing emotion, and hope that someone will take notice. And did I hear you sing that we exist without existing? Or did I hear you sing then we'll end where we begin? I understand it, but I don't show it, so I won't think it, and maybe we'll be there. Maybe we will be there. I understand it, but I don't show it, so I won't think it, and maybe we'll be there. Maybe one day we will be there. I thought I heard you say
Exposure, 104.9 XFM, Idlewild with I Understand It from the new album Warnings and Promises. As If I Hadn't Slept is the next track, and there's some pedal steel creeping in here, which also appears later on the record as well. So, I mean, you've talked about folk music. Has there always been a country element to Idlewild?
Maybe not, sort of country and western, but I think, I mean, we listen to a lot of music, I think...
Townes Van Sant and Johnny Cash and Dylan and Birds
like R.E.M. do that sort of thing as well.
We've been listening to music like that for a long time. That definitely comes through.
What I like is that these things have been used and introduced in very subtle ways. They don't dominate the songs. They're just there as an extra bit of colouring.
Well, to be honest, a lot of that's Tony Hoffer, because he's a great producer, and he let us be the band that we wanted to be, but he just moulded us a little bit into something that just fitted better with the songs that we'd written, which might sound a bit vague, but he was just perfect at kind of understanding what we were trying to do and say, well, you can do it better if you do this and change these little bits of the songs and add this and let's try this. And he really made the record sound the way it did, I think he's really to be thanked. And that's one song that he turned, the demo's just so different.
Yeah, I mean, it was again really early sort of Pearl Jam tour bus demo that we tried a bunch of ways and never really had an identity at all. And the pedal steel in it just kind of pulls it in a direction. It doesn't completely shape it and turn it into a sort of, real knees-up country and western song. But
which would be good. But
at the same time, it just
album
gives it another sort of flavour, I suppose, which is makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned a couple of times that some of the songs first started out on the tour bus, and many bands attempt that and then ditch everything that they write on the tour bus.
We got quite good at it because we don't expect too much from it. I think that's the thing. We don't expect to, we never say, let's write an album on tour. But over the years, we've got pretty good at just, we have the 4-track or the Rod's laptop set up, and we spend like a couple hours, an hour every day, just putting ideas down, and we don't expect a finished song from it. Like, it really might just be Rod's playing a few chord progressions and I just hum something over the top of it, and that's what we do that day. The next day we might do something a lot more substantial, I have finished lyrics, but we don't expect, because we don't expect too much from it, we're always really surprised by how much we like bits, and there's quite a lot of it that ends up used on the record, because we would be thinking, this could do with a sort of a good melody, and then we're thinking there was some good stuff on those demos.
Yeah, and I guess at the time, I mean, you're very immersed in music if you're playing music every single night and, thinking about things like that. And
you're also travelling as well, so you're constantly in different environments. So there's one of the demos which is really funny. We're in Canada driving through and I start talking about some hat shop we've just passed, but it sounds really good in context of the music. I mean, that wouldn't have happened anywhere else, Although we didn't use that one. There's no lyrics about it. Was it millinery?
Has there always been a millinery element to Idlewild stuff? This is Idlewild with As If I Hadn't Slept from Warnings and Promises on Exposure XFM.
As if I hadn't slept, telling stories which tell their stories themselves. You didn't even hear them. Our thoughts are somewhere else. As long as I go somewhere, I'll still be trying to see. As long as I go somewhere, I'll still be trying. As long as I go somewhere, I'll still be lying to me. As long as I go somewhere. If you're so sure that you don't need love, only it's as if I hadn't slept. As laughter smiles back in your direction, but you're protected by the smoke from your cigarette. but completely without any mystery. And you compare me to a shadow, which in itself is some kind of victory.
Idlewild with As If I Hadn't Slept. From Warnings and Promises, the new album out in the shops next week, getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight with a little help from Roddy and Rod. We're almost at the halfway point. Too Long Awake is the next track, and it's almost as if that was planned, from As If I Hadn't Slept to Too Long Awake.
I never thought about that, actually.
Yeah, but it wasn't, obviously. This kind of starts with a nice kind of spiralling guitar intro. How did you work that out?
This was really like an example of Tony Hoffer at work. He basically, we had this sort of refrain, well, basically a really kind of pretty acoustic song that we just intended to record as it was, and we ended up doing as well. But he just sort of saw it as a pop song, and a sort of a, you know, a kind of an odd pop song. Said, look, let's spend an hour just trying different ways of playing this song and coming up with a few other ideas, and we just came up with this riff and played over it for, you know, an hour or so, and it kind of just fitted really well into the song and took it into a completely different shape, as you can kind of hear when you listen to the sort of hidden track at the end of the record, the other version of this.
It was an exciting day, because we'd never met him before, and we spent a week over, like a pre-production, whatever you want to call it. Basically, we were playing, he was listening, because he'd never met us or heard us play before. And we were playing to this song, he's like, this is a cool song, but let's just, like, try something totally different with it. And we were like, as soon as we started, like, you open your minds to that. We just had this idea, as Rod said, of this being this specific thing. When you open your minds to it, I was thinking, actually, this record can go anywhere. And this is quite an exciting person to be recording it with, so...
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, he's come up in these album playbacks a few times. During Breaks recorded with him a couple of years ago, and Air recorded with him, and yeah, all of them have had nothing but praise for him.
Really, I mean, we were kind of drawn to him because we love Beck, and he used to play in Beck's band, and he was like Beck's one of his childhood friends, and he's done lots of stuff like that. And he's very similar in the way that, not like I know Beck, but in the way that he's just really interested in a broad selection of music, and he knows loads about it. And he's very specific on gear and loves old things and attention to detail. He's sort of like Wes Anderson of like music or something, you know, and that's what I really like about him, you know.
Yeah, and whose decision was it about Too Long Awake to end so abruptly the way it does? Because it just kind of stops.
Yeah. Well, it went on for ages, and we thought
There was no really other way to end.
we said all of us hate fade outs collectively. We're not really a fan of the fade out.
Yeah.
Although I think there might be one on the record, is there?
No, I think there probably is.
we only do like there's only not, you know, fade outs to me are just not good. I think it's something to do with Level 42. I think I had an album by them when I was younger. Every single song faded out. I think it scarred me for life on the fade out. But yeah, so we just decided to chop it straight into an acoustic song.
Yeah,
to quite an extreme.
Yeah, we're going to chop it into two because we're going to take a break after Too Long Away, and I wanted to bring it up just in case people said, why has he stopped that there? It sounded great. Yeah. But we're going to listen to Too Long Awake, and then we'll have a little ad break, and then we'll continue with the second half of the new album from Idlewild.
No one stays in the same place for too long. I've been too long away. Together, we're younger than you are forever, but older than we are together. If we had so much to do together, we're younger than you are forever, but older than we are together.
And that is the way it ends. I told you it ended abruptly. That is Idlewild with Too Long Awake from the new album's Warnings, Promises. I've got two different copies. One just says Warnings, Promises. The other says Warnings and Promises, which is why I keep switching the title around, and which is why Roddy and Rod keep doing the same thing. Well, what do you think of it? john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk. That's john.kennedy@xfm.co.uk. The text number is 83XFM 83936. We've got the second half of the album for you after this.
XFM.
There is a long forgotten voice. I know it's not your voice, 'cause it's always strained. I wake up hearing unfamiliar voices, convinced they're trying to explain that if my words were clearer, then maybe I would know what I'm trying to say. Just as those long forgotten voices disappear back into rain. Same day that you died, should that make me try? I was born the same day that you died, should that make me feel more alive? Not just sometimes, but always. I know, I know, I know, I know. Tune the radio to drown out these voices I don't know. And suddenly an empty house, it almost fills up with home. There are days and nights when I don't need to close my eyes, and they feel as real to me, like an elegy in disguise. If I was born the same day that you died, should that make me try? Same day that you died, should that make me feel more alive? Not just sometimes, but always. I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. Not just sometimes, but always.
You're listening to London's 104.9 XFM. It is Exposure. I'm John Kennedy, here with you until 1. And tonight I've been joined by Roddy and Rod from Idlewild for an album playback of their new record, Warnings and Promises. It's out in the shops next week. And you've just heard track 7, Not Just Sometimes, But Always. And we've been talking about the album, about Tony Hoffer, who they worked with in LA to record the record. What can you tell us about that particular song, Not Just Sometimes, But Always?
This is another one of our sort of acoustic demos that we had for ages, that we tried so many things with. Tried it as a sort of a full band, as a
slow burning ballad,
U2-esque anthem, and eventually I think we realised that we didn't have to do what we used to do, every acoustic idea and trying to make it into a sort of a big rock song, and that it could just be pretty straightforward and simple. And so we just recorded it basically live, 2 acoustic guitars, and Tony again just had the idea of just saying about getting some sort of a weird string quartet on it, and not trying to make it sound sort of like a traditional kind of British string quartet, but like just something a bit odder.
Beck's dad that did the strings.
He'd known Beck's dad for years. I think he'd help him sort of when he was a session musician, and so he just called him up and he did this arrangement, which was just really kind of peculiar, a string arrangement that just sounds great and just pulls the song in a uncomfortable but good way, I think.
This was the song I just sort of instinctively, it was the one that everyone liked straight away from a record company and people like that. It was just because I suppose it's very simple, and the sentiment's very simple as well, about the whole idea of regeneration and how the world, we're constantly living in the hull of other people's lives. When you live, when you die, someone else is born. That kind of, is that true? I don't know, but it's all about that.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of people, ghosts and people coming back from the dead, and I'm not being. It's not like Evil Dead. But, you know what I mean. It's the whole idea of does life? Does it just continue all the time, or does it actually, are we part of like the jigsaw? Or it's actually made it sound quite complicated, but it's very, very simple, and it's a very simple tune, and it's very catchy, and straight away people were like, this is a great song, and that's why we're thinking, let's make it into this, sort of, big epic ballad, sort of British style, like all these bands like Keane and Coldplay and Snow Patrol, they do that very well, they do that kind of song. We're thinking maybe we should try and turn this song into that, and we did, and we actually recorded a version of it like it, and then when we got home we were like, that's just not us, it sounds like, probably play it on the radio and it probably makes some women cry that were doing their ironing or something, but it wasn't really, didn't satisfy me or Rod or Gavin or Alan and Colin, so we just totally took it back to the drawing board, and Tony said, right, it's just a great song, so let's just record it with the guitar and let's add some weird strings to it.
It works really, really well. So when you're with the lyrics, you're not talking specifics. So when you say I was born the same day you died, you're talking more generally about.
I mean, I think that's one of the misconceptions quite a lot of songwriters and lyricists is when they use the word I, it means themselves, and it always means someone else. Generally, I don't think it's a very dishonest trade, in a way that there's too much sort of self-obsession, and people think that. But I think that most people mean someone else when they say I. I certainly do most of the time anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we couldn't work out who was born the same day that I died. We came up with Howard Hughes was born. Chairman Mao and Howard Hughes. So, and it's about neither of them. So.
Right. What, they died the same day you were born?
Not the same day I was born. I think the same month I was born. We got it down to month. We couldn't find day.
The next track is The Space Between All Things. Sorry, I'm starting to think about who was born. Getting confused. How you could, make sure that if you, when you have a baby born, that you run down the end of the hospital, see who's died, so you know. Anyway, I'll get.
Well, I mean, there's the whole idea about that. People do that. So I mean, and there's an internet site all about it, but which is quite fascinating, really. People believe that. I mean, I don't know particularly what I think about it, but I do think the idea of there's got to be something going on that I don't understand.
The title of the next song, in a way, could tie in with that, because it sounds pretty ominous and potent and all-encompassing. The space between all things.
Yeah.
Now, if you say it like that, it sounds really, Star Trek or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate it if people think I was some sort of pseudo-intellectual that's sat, brooding by, some oak tree in some, provincial garden with my copy of Nietzsche in my pocket. I'm not like that at all. But I do think about things, and I like releasing songs that are, thoughtful rock songs. I think that's one thing we've kind of got a name for. And I really like the whole idea of it as a medium to put different thoughts into people's heads. And in the context of a catchy song, it's great because, you know, people can ignore it and still just hum along with it, or they can really delve into it. So yeah, this song is actually all about Los Angeles, actually. Well, the verses are anyway. It goes back to the thing about the narrative verses and the more sort of suggestive chorus. I don't mean suggestive as in sort of princess. So the verses are basically about each like stanza. Again, this is my stanza is a word not commonly used, but they're all about people that we saw there. You know, the person pulling his hands through his hair, and the person in the cinema. You know, and then the chorus just suggests the whole idea about these people I met, not necessarily people I met, but people I saw in Los Angeles. The whole idea about me passing through their lives. You know. It's a classic idea of, like, you know, we're constantly passing through moments of other people's lives that we don't realise it, and it's just really about that, about the space between all things, and why is it fate? Is it something to do with fate? Which I don't actually believe, because I think, well, fate's a religious idea, and I'm not really a religious person, so, but I believe in coincidence totally, and I think that's one of the point of being alive, is to see what happens next, and kind of that's what the song's about. It's about coincidence and the fact that I'm taking part in someone's life that I've never met before just by walking past them.
And this is it. Sorry.
Some cool guitar playing as well on the song.
They've all got cool guitar. No, it's quite spiky, the guitar on this. So, I mean, is this, can we, with the guitars, when I listen to it, I've been trying, because obviously, you know, Alan's the full-time member now, and I've been trying to work out now, is that Rod, or is that Alan, and trying to decipher it.
He's more kind of bluesy. He's a great rhythm player,
right?
And he's more inclined to do kind of some sort of, you know, a real sort of tasty kind of solo, whereas Rod's more inclined to do a much more discordant thing, or much more like, you know, not because either of them are better than each other, just very different.
Yeah,
which is really interesting for me standing between them. And this song actually, Space Between All Things live, is really extended, and there's a whole section where Alan does a solo and then Rod does a solo, and it's just two different styles. It's two different sounds completely, which is really great.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. This is it. The space between all things.
All the walls of your house were painted in deep blue. You're at that indecisive age to choose colors that reflect you. And everything and nothing is in the space between all things. That fascinates as much as it agitates. Words turn me into what I say as you pull your yellow stained fingers through your unkept hair. I noticed that the corners of your jeans were folded neatly into squares. Your thoughts are the strangest place that you've ever been. Stranger even than Los Angeles. It's like a cinema where they never ask you to leave. So I wait and I wait and concentrate on being as far away from fate. So I wait and concentrate on being as far away. She had a North Atlantic film star grace. That's why her tears are out of place. A kind of sadness has no style, so nothing will make her smile, except as soon as anything happens, she'll drag me on the street, and hand in hand we stand protesting while everyone is still asleep. So I wait and I wait and concentrate on being as far away from fate. So I wait and
between all things. Idlewild from the new album Warnings and Promises. Roddy and Rod from the band are here. We're talking our way through it track by track. You're getting to hear the whole thing before it's in the shops. El Capitan is the next track. And what can you tell us about this one? See the future in your picture or something? I was trying to...
Yeah, looking through... What?
This isn't a test on whether you know the lyrics.
No, it's this is actually, we've been playing this one, we rearranged it acoustically and we've been playing it live a lot acoustically, and it's been going down really well. So much so that we're actually thinking about maybe the acoustic version's better than the version we did on the record. But I don't think it is. I think they're just very different. And I think when we do it acoustically, you can understand the lyrics a lot more. And I really like the lyrics in this one. I think it's, for me, it was just trying to write a song about something, and actually I think I've almost succeeded. It's about, you know, I can't even pronounce it. Yosemite, or using
Yes,
Yosemite. Yosemite National Park. Is that I apologise if people listen from there and I'm pronouncing it wrong. But that was this big, I think it's the largest freestanding cliff face in North America. And it used to be a place where a lot of people killed themselves. And it was kind of a glamorous, almost amazing place to do that, to kind of end your life. So much so that, you know, and that's the whole idea of this song, is it's kind of a story about that. It's nothing to do with me, or it's like me writing a story about the person setting himself up to do that, to leap off this magnificent cliff face, and what would go through his head when he was doing that.
Right.
But again, it's kind of surreal. It's not like morbid in the way that, you know, the whole idea of looking into the distance to see the future, and looking at pictures of the distance to see the future, and yeah.
So is he El Capitan then, this person? Or
no, I don't know actually. I mean, maybe he is. John is good. He's opened my mind to my own lyrics.
So Rod, does Roddy explain this before
No.
you record these songs? Or
Generally, the lyrics
Do you
aren't
ever think
finished
of asking him?
until they're actually being sung.
Right.
Which was something that Tony was getting on Roddy's back about quite a lot.
I just don't like committing myself to something. It's like, you know, for me, it's like drafting an essay.
Mm.
You don't just write lyrics and then just sing it and that's it. You draft it. You sing them and say, no, that's not right. Then you change them and rewrite them. And so, yeah, Tony wasn't used to this method, so he got a bit frustrated by it at times. Till he was just like getting, not annoyed at me, but it's the only way I can do it.
Yeah.
I have to give myself a persecution complex in order to write things that I'm happy with.
Yeah, no, that seems fair enough. It's interesting hearing how different people work, though, because last year we did an album playback with The Cure, and Robert Smith was in, and he was saying that with the last Cure album, which was just called The Cure, it was the first time in the whole history of The Cure that he'd ever explained the lyrics to a song or explained what a song was about to the rest of the band, and that they had a different way of working for that album where, you know, he spent about 2 hours explaining the song, and then they went in to play it, and he said it was the first time they'd actually all been working on the same kind of level, you know, which it was quite different for the band, and they found that quite refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that no one's just ever really asked. I don't mean to be negative about it, but I actually think that they probably don't really mind or bother. Like, I know that Gavin and Colin, for example, have told me that before. They're much more interested in the melody of what I'm singing and the music that they're playing. Because I mean, in one way, I quite like that, because I know that they have enough sort of faith and trust in what I'm doing to not really, you know, to know that I'm not going to sing something that, you know, stupid or like is kind of inane. But at the same time, they don't ever ask me, what does that line mean? Yeah. Because I just don't think they don't care about it. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because that's what I was saying earlier on. I like that aspect of Idlewild, is the fact that you can really care about the words, or you don't have to, because the tunes are really strong.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. This is Idlewild with El Capitan.
By the harbor, I harbor the strangest memories, older than I could ever be, stranded in nostalgia. So tonight I'll try harder, but it's hard to fix this spotlight on me in a cast that's taken places least I'm in good company, because there's no one else around except me. Stand up, and stand out. I'm not El Capitan, just to watch the world slow down. Stand up, and stand out. And I hope you took your camera. Silence makes the loudest sound. It seems far too easy to say the same thing. I'll choose my own way to use my life, but finally find a new way to say the same thing in imaginary ways. I lose my life. You were looking at pictures in the distance, hoping to see the future in your pictures of the distance, hoping to see the future. Looking at pictures in the distance, hoping to see the future through your pictures of the distance, hoping to see the future. Looking at pictures in the distance, hoping to see the future in your pictures of the distance, hoping to see the future. Looking at pictures in the distance, hoping to see the future in your pictures of the distance, hoping to see the future in your pictures.
Idlewild with El Capitan from the new album Warnings and Promises. We've got 3 more songs to go, 3 more songs to play tonight. We have Roddy and Rod with us. Blame It on the Obvious Ways is the next song. What can you tell us about this?
This is probably came about because we spent a long time on tour with Pearl Jam. I think it's kind of the most sort of rootsy.
That's
kind of-
Alan's riff, isn't it, to begin with? This
It's
sort of
just a sort of this really kind of, yeah, I don't know, traditional kind of sounding riff, I suppose. We'd just basically been sitting around in the practice room for a couple of weeks after we got back from the Pearl Jam tour, and I think, you know, these sort of things do have an effect on you whether you like it or not, you know. And you know, I've never been such a massive fan of that kind of traditional
Alan loves it.
sounding
That's
rootsy
totally
rock
his
music.
thing.
Right.
But I have noticed, having listened back to the record since we finished it, that I've actually been doing quite a lot of it. So maybe I did like it all along. I don't
Yeah,
know.
this was a real Alan sort of. When I listen to it, I mean, I don't listen back to it. I mean, it's Alan's song, but I can. It's for me. It's interesting because I can hear the influence of different people on all the songs from the band, and this is the one that you hear most of him in. I think of all the songs. Just it's the kind of music that he likes to do, and I think this is probably his favourite song on the record.
Mm.
He's really he likes. I think he's probably the most kind of rock member of our band, whatever you want to call it. He listens to the most sort of heavy music, and that's the kind of music he likes to play. Not saying he doesn't like to play acoustically, and he's a very good acoustic guitar player, but in fact he plays acoustic guitar in this song, but I think that he does like it when we get a bit more kind of gritty and aggressive. And I think this is, I like Tony's description of this one. He said it sounded like there was dirt in our shoes, which is I think it's a really cool. It's kind of it's a rock song, but it's one that's been recorded in a barn or something, you know. And it's about basically the situations we've all been in before. It's basically about going out, drinking, doing whatever, and the night you're out, it's a different world than the one you wake up in, and it's that whole idea about blaming it on the obvious ways and being pulled into these familiar situations just because you know that you won't be in it tomorrow, you know.
All the mistakes I made because I didn't know myself very well. And by this stage, I feel like I really shouldn't know myself. I'm forced into a sponsored silence, where I'm only paying if I don't say what I want to say. Open up your arms and say, I can't throw it all away. Open up your arms and say, I can't give it all away. I couldn't even care what you say. You changed everything. Blame it on your obvious ways. I can't move my prisons and fill the jukebox full of my favorite phrases. As we cling to the nightclub walls, we whisper the words, we whispered them wrong, and so we screamed out the wrong words into our own song. And with a kiss that tasted like drugs, which tastes like we'll never, ever make it home. Open up your arms and say, I can't throw it all away. Open up your arms and say, I can't give it all away. I couldn't even care what you say. Change everything. Blame it on your obvious ways.
Idlewild, Blame It on the Obvious Ways from the new album Warnings and Promises. Disconnected is the next track, and the pedal steel re-emerges on this track just a little bit. What's this one about? And is this, again, it seemed to me, listening to a couple of the songs and then reading a little bit about you before I came in to talk to you, that you've, obviously, as a band, you tour a lot, but Roddy, you seem to live in lots of different places, and I wondered whether, it was to do with that.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, this is the most straightforward song on the record, I think. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Scotland, and despite not particularly liking where I grew up, or particularly liking going back, I like to see my parents, I'm so glad that I did, because it did shape the way that the outlook I have on the world, I moved about a lot, and then till I was about 14, and settled in the small town, which is a weird place to, spend your teenage years, so rural Scotland. And it's the whole idea of the people I know from that town that do good things and do things with their life, were always the people at school that had the hardest time. And I'm not saying it's some sort of anthem about bullying, or far from it, but it's basically about, looking at your situation, and imagining yourself out of that situation, like I used to do when I was younger, like the whole idea of the street being the runway, and it's, and again, it's not, I wouldn't say it's definitely from personal experience, but it's more, again, like a narrative about someone. And I think the music's really sympathetic to the words as well. I really think musically it works really well, and again, it was one that Tony kind of rearranged us to do, because we weren't sure how to do it exactly, and I think the music gives the words, that's the best thing about music to me, is when song lyrics are given real emphasis by the music behind them, and the power comes from that. It doesn't come necessarily from the words, it comes from the music that's playing behind it. I think this song is one of the most effective songs on our record because of that. I think the music just really fits with the words and what I'm singing and the sentiment, and I really think it's a good tune.
And this is it. Disconnected, Idlewild on Exposure, XFM.
I watch you stumble through the morning. I watch you stumble home at night, silhouetted by a sun without sunlight. I've watched you walk straight through an evening when you're laden with the day, and the light of the moon, it only gets in your way. From a bedroom window, I was anyone, and the street I look upon is my runaway. But I'm connected to the places I don't feel connected from. I'm connected to the place that I don't feel like I'm from. This is the kind of town where everyone knows each other, and everyone hates that they know each other, and no one's getting any younger. From a bedroom window, I was anyone. Every street I look upon could be a runaway. But I'm connected to the places I don't feel connected from. I'm connected to the places I don't feel like I'm from. I'm connected to the places I don't feel connected from. I don't feel connected from. Oh, don't belong here now. Don't belong here now. Don't belong. You'll never belong. Don't belong here now. Don't belong here now. Don't belong here now. Don't belong. You'll never belong. Don't belong here now.
That's Disconnected, Idlewild from the new album Warnings and Promises. There's just one more track to go tonight, which is called Goodnight, appropriately enough. Seems a good way to end the record, and this kind of starts really quietly. It's again a bit of a folk track, but kind of builds right near the end in a great way. And there's this great kind of vocal harmonies, but they sound so dense that they could almost be brass parts behind them.
That was kind of the idea. It was one. Actually, me and Roddy was sitting in, I think, in your flat or somewhere, just coming up with ideas, and it was. We had this sort of end section, and we didn't, because we just had an acoustic guitar and nothing really else. Kind of just trying to use a voice as an instrument rather. I had a sort of a melody idea, but as Roddy said earlier, I don't really write lyrics, so. I was just...
You did once.
Humming.
They were rubbish.
They were terrible. It's not going to that. But yeah, it was just a melody idea, you know, like just basically treating it like an instrument. And, you know, at the time probably thought we'd probably end up using an instrument to do it, but it just kind of stuck like that. And when the rest of the band were just basically, we took the song wasn't quite going in the right way, and the beginning of the song ended up changing round quite a lot, but that end bit had always kind of stuck as just a really good melody. So when we went into the studio, we just thought we'll just do it like this, you know, and got an hour in again, a friend, to sing all the high parts, and it just sort of, it doesn't sound too choral, which was, it was starting to sound a little bit like a sort of
Alan Jones kind of snowman vibe,
you know, like some sort of choir in the valleys.
Yeah.
But it ended up I think with just having these different voices doing it ended up just sounding really cool, I think.
It's a lullaby, really, to me. It's like, and it's perfect how it's got in 2 sections, you know. It's just a really nice way to end a record, and it was such an obvious way to end the record. And it was actually one of the first songs we recorded. It was the first song I sang for the record, anyway.
Right.
Which is weird because it sounds like the last song I've ever sang, you know. Sounds like just to sing and then I just fall asleep straight away. It was actually done like at the very start of the recording session. And I was actually, it gave me a lot of confidence, this one, personally speaking, because I've never really, I'm getting much more confident as a singer now, but really it's something I've had since we started the band. Because when we started the band, I was a teenager and you just used to scream, you know, and I was a bit nervous as well about, you know, recording a new record with the new person, and the first song you sing is always like, you know, you're still finding your way about the song, and, you know, obviously in a new situation, and you realise that you're recording something that is, you know, hopefully going to have real longevity and people are going to listen to it in 10 years' time. And so you don't want to mess it up, obviously. But it really gave me confidence to sing a song like that, and Tony Hoffer straight away was like, this is, you know, giving me big compliments about, you know, my delivery and the way I was singing, and it really made me relax into the relationship I have with him, and also the record. I was thinking, right, this record's going to be good. I'm really kind of in control of the way I'm singing and what I'm going to be singing about. So, and it's also an irony because it pretty much was what the song's about. It's about, you know, you have to find your own way through things, you know, and I had the whole idea about the crowd booing out your name, and, you know, it's like a nightmare, you know, it's like having a nightmare before you fall asleep, and then, you know, sleeping when you're awake, that kind of thing.
And it's a fitting end to the album. Good night, Idlewild.
Shyness was to blame, and you'd get to live your life again when you get to wish everyone good night. As the crowd put out your name, at least they spelt it right, so you don't complain why everyone is wishing you a good night. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you're right, but I thought I was the only one who can say good night. It's your heroes who are to blame, constantly saying things that they don't explain. Well, that's too bad, but I still can't say goodnight, and I just can't stay tonight. I woke up saying goodnight.
is Almost Good Night from Roddy and Rod. That is Idlewild, the last track on the album, bar the secret track, which you can discover next week if you go and buy it. The album is Warnings Promises. It's out in the shops next week, and you seem to love it, basically. Ollie has emailed saying, just listen to your playback of the new Idlewild album, trying to stay up. Anyway, Idlewild rock. I'm loving the new stuff. Can't wait to see them at Shepherd's Bush. M. Muncher has emailed saying, listening to Idlewild from Manhattan, one of Idlewild's biggest fans so far. I find this to be their best album yet, taking the place of 100 Broken Windows. Seems Warning Promises has taken its place, but absolutely love it. It's their best. And what else have we got on the text? Mate, new Idlewild sounds great. If it wasn't for Captain, Punk may have died. All the best, Jim in Rhesus. We've got Callum saying, sounds great. Looking forward to getting my hands on it. Good to have you guys back. See you on tour. Drew says, I've been a big fan since the beginning and absolutely love every LP, including what I've heard of this one. The single gives me goosebumps. Thanks, guys. Somebody else says, wow, I wasn't amazed when I first heard Love Steals Us, but now I'm really excited about the new album. Drew, again in Bermondsey, saying, I know this album will be in my top 3 of the year. We've got somebody else saying, hello, John, album sounds great, good to have them back. And that's generally what everybody seems to say. Darren in Sheffield says it sounds absolutely great. And keep the comments coming. I'll go through some of them again on tomorrow night's show. Jan Mine in for a one-night stand and the Magic Numbers recorded at Exposure Live. Don't miss it. They were sublime. Thanks to Roddy and Rod. Thanks to you for listening. And Marsha Shanda is on the way.
XFM.